think. You can go to the website and get a copy of the agenda, and so you can follow along there. Our agenda tonight, in addition to going over minute meetings and appearances, we have 3 or 2 appearances? Two appearances tonight, and a public hearing continuation for 255 High Road, and then some ongoing business items. So my name is John Weiss, and I'm the chair of the board.
I'm George Morris.
Jim Robinson.
John O'Connell.
Elizabeth Mitchell.
Pete Pecos.
Martha Taylor, Town Planner.
And so have we had all the meeting minutes out and for review?
The October 5th, did I send those out?
Some time ago. Yeah.
Some time ago.
Yeah.
I think they were sent a long time ago,
Yeah.
but I was not part of that.
Right. It was,
So, I read them, but I can't vote on them. So, you have a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes of October 5, 2016.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And what about the 19th?
we don't.
I don't think we have those
We
yet.
don't have
I was ready to vote for it.
those.
So,
Actually, I think, if we can backtrack, I think the only ones at the October 5th meeting were Elizabeth, George, and John.
they're the only ones that can vote.
Right.
I know I
So,
did.
yeah, so we need a different second.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Woody Cammett, no, you're not here. Yes, well, someone from Cammett Engineering is here.
Yes,
And you're here to talk about Old Road, next to Governor's.
correct.
What is your name?
My name is Bob Smith.
Bob Smith, for the
I'm
record.
surveyor for Cameron Engineering.
Okay.
I'm Tom Woodruff.
Hi, Tom.
I'm from Governor.
That's who.
Oh, you're from Governor's.
That's right, yes, I've been here, I said, the last meeting with Woody.
What we have is an A&R plan creating 2 lots on Old Road, south side of Governor's Academy. It's pretty straightforward. We meet frontage, we meet area. A little bit of wetlands in the back, nothing major. And there's not a whole lot to say about it.
Basically, there's no lots here now, or you're just creating 2 out of nothing, is that right?
We're creating 2 out of nothing.
And the road was actually approved by the planning board in July of 1961, which was
Oh,
after
good.
subdivision was adopted by the town.
When you were in diapers.
Yeah.
John, any thoughts?
Not really, I was gonna go out and have a look, but approved by the planning board takes care of that, so.
Yeah, I think
The
so.
fact that I didn't become suddenly irrelevant.
I took a
I did a
look.
lot better.
It looked straightforward to me.
Yeah.
There is development around there. So any further comments from board members? Anything else?
I did review the plan, and there are a few things to be picked up, but I think everything's been addressed.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, could I have a motion for the approval of the A&R?
I move to accept the A&R for proposed new lots off Old Road for faculty housing.
Second.
Owner applicant, the Governor's Academy.
Second.
Seconded by John. Any further comment by board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's done now. Are you here for the second one as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That's the lot line changes.
Sorry?
Lot line changes.
Correct.
Do you want to sign after we've gone through all of it?
Yeah, let's wait.
This is not us.
High Road. God, you got more stuff on High Road. This is across from you, isn't it? Mr. Pritchard, this is your property?
Yeah.
This is an A&R plan also. It's a lot line adjustment plan. What we are doing is we are creating a small lot, and I'm going to give you a different plan than what I'm showing you. This is sheet 2. Let's show you sheet 1.
Which is the small lot? This guy?
No, hold on just a second. I'm going to give you, I took out sheet 2 instead of sheet 1.
All right. Okay, so
What we
now,
have is a small lot right here.
It's
which
a very
is-
small lot.
Yes, parcel A, which is only 3,000 square feet. Parcel A is this parcel right here, and that's this parcel here. And Mr. Pritchard is looking to swap and receive parcel A. In return, he's giving the Browns, who owns parcel 18 on the tax map,
Mhm.
this parcel right here.
And this parcel has frontage, what is this, any frontage? No.
No, this is the driveway, this is the frontage.
High Road is here.
High Road is down the front.
Okay, have I looked at this plan?
This is the parcel that is going to this lot.
Okay, so this is Dave's property now, and it's going to the Browns.
That is correct.
And in return, he's getting
gets the
some
small-
relief on a fairly close to zero setback.
Zero. Yeah, yes.
This a road that goes up to Joe Story's old barn?
Yeah,
Yeah. And then it comes off and there's your house and a couple of others.
yeah, it's under my great grandfather. His name was on it way back.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The situation was that when I built my house 30 years ago, I went up there, I bought the land from Mr. Little, and I would build my house at the highest part of the hill. And I just built a house here and I went back to work. I mean, I'm just a truck driver, I work heck of a But then over the years, my wife put a kind of a planter out back, and I put a generator house, and I'm wondering, I think I'm too close to the other guy's property. But actually, I was on the other guy's property, which is, he's a good friend of mine,
Yeah.
we're up in the sticks by ourselves, So I just figured, I'm not too knowledgeable on setbacks and all that, I just stayed in the whole course while we're still kicking. It just, I give you that piece of land, and you take that piece of land.
So is that your house? Where it says existing building?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm facing up.
And that face,
I face them out of the river.
so what's the front of the house? I'm just curious. Is that the front of the house?
This is.
Okay, all right. And this is the Browns.
Yeah, I'm like 175 feet up in the air up there, I think.
Great location.
Yeah, it's just, John knows the property,
Yeah,
that's way back, that Mr. Little lived up there, Mr. Little was kind of a gentleman, but a little eccentric, so to speak, and I knew the land was up there, and when I bought it, he knew, it was kind of a towny thing, but he knew I could get the thing hopefully done through. It was just a project that I did that, I just did a lot of stuff up there over the years,
When did you build this?
87, at 30 years. I think you did East Long.
I worked on it, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a Lindell Cedar home that we brought in from the Northwest, and it's kind of a trick place. It's a little different.
Any other questions from board members?
Not me, it looks pretty straightforward.
I don't know what you mean by eccentric. This is the mental health capital of the world.
Hey, anybody can be normal, right?
Well put. I'm gonna use that one. I like that. I really like that.
Okay, can I have then a motion from?
Yes.
Sorry, no,
Go right ahead,
you say it much better than I do.
I move to accept the A&R plan for proposed lot line change at 2 and 3 Little Old Town Hill. Owners High Oaks Realty Trust and Elizabeth Pritchard, trustee, and Ross and Michelle Brown.
Second. I can say that.
I can read.
Yeah, any further discussion about it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
See the high hopes, I had high hopes.
Anybody could be-
I hope, I had high hopes of paying for it.
Thanks a lot.
Two more. Right here.
Want to consider going to the planning board meeting. No, Concom.
I'll be there.
I'll be?
I'll be there,
Yeah, go ahead.
for sure.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Dave Pritchard.
Doug runs a very, very good job.
Yeah.
Excellent meeting.
Not bad.
Does a very good job.
17.
That would be about right. Yeah, yesterday was the third, plus 14.
Okay.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So do you have any sense of when you'll be back with the subdivision?
I don't. I know that. Two questions. You put a couple of plans on 40.
Yes, sir.
And up 40.
Yes.
Or just this one? We don't have to read anything further on this, do we? We'll just reopen it.
Yes.
So our next item is the public hearing consideration application for approval of the definitive subdivision plan for 255 High Road, owner applicant Adam J. True, Real Estate Development LLC. So we've had this before us a few times, and we've been having good discussions with the developer and with various parts of city government, town government. And I think the last time we were together, there were just some things that were hanging out there, including the fire department and a couple of other issues. So maybe you could just bring us up to date about what you've been doing with.
But before you start, as an abutter, I am going to recuse myself from the discussions. That is why I'm leaving the table.
Okay. So,
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Good morning, Cam Group. Adam Truce here. Yes, we didn't have any changes to the plans, so we finalized our last meeting with final plans. We submitted the final set to the board. What we expect is the final set. As well as the fire department. They did have a meeting with the board. They did not take a vote on it, but we got correspondence back from the chief saying that he didn't expect any issues. They were just waiting to formalize a vote on either the 16th or the 23rd of January. Martha, I believe you have that email, or I have it here. I can read it.
Yes, I have sent that to the board, and I have
Okay.
hard copies here.
So I do not have any other changes to the plans to go over with you tonight. That is the set we reviewed last time, finalized. And I know, Martha, you had some questions perhaps on some of the other documents, the covenants and homeowners documents that you want to go over tonight. And that's all I have for you this evening. We're hoping
Okay.
to go forward to next meeting for a formal vote and finalizing, so seeing a decision, perhaps a draft decision, and working towards the completion of this.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from board members on what you've seen or what you haven't seen, or just questions you may still have?
Okay. We heard that the last meeting from Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
yeah, that he was basically cool with it. I got your letter, I wasn't able to print it, my printer decided not to work anymore. Just as I think it's your fault, because I was trying to print your letter. But I'd just like to hear from you as the other abutter. Are you basically okay? You don't have to be happy, but you have to be not really furious.
Elizabeth Mitchell, 255 High Road. No, you're 255. I'm going to adopt your address, Adam. I've said it so many times. Elizabeth Mitchell, 257 High Road. And I'm a direct abutter to Mr. Shrew's property at 255. And first, Adam, we haven't had a chance to speak since we were actually at a prior meeting together. So I do want to thank you for your efforts in making changes to the road. I think that it is actually what we had contemplated and suggested at the very initial meeting, at least as it impacted my property. So, John, in response to your question, no, I'm not thrilled with it, but provided just because I don't want a road or a driveway right into my property.
That, of course.
But I do think that we've made some progress towards something that, if Mr. True stays true to his word and is willing to continue working with us on screening and handling the property appropriately, I think that given its current placement, it's something that we can live with. And I know you had mentioned in the last meeting, I watched the video, that you had done some testing. That's my editorial word in terms of driving with headlights and whatnot. We certainly haven't seen that or participated in that. And also there's some discussion about speed. You know, it is important to us. We've got young children and dogs and whatnot. You know, that there isn't traffic racing by, and I think we need to get on the same speed about or same page as to what is appropriate. I know by sort of just our own experiences in terms of driving by the Smalls property, our rule of thumb, and actually what we ask our guests to abide by is a 10 to 15 mile speed. You know, I think that that's just sort of what we do. I hope that that's something that is something that you would find amenable as well. We have much, I think, at least currently, less of a buffer between our property and what we have with the Smalls. And then, again, the screening is important to us. We can certainly do some on our property, as we've already done. There are areas where I think definitely need some additional screening that are clearly on your property. So we would like to continue working with you on that and finding something that works for both of us.
That's agreeable.
So, and so that's where I'm at, John. I think,
Okay.
you know, I'm.
Now, of the things you mentioned, Elizabeth, working with Adam, can you come up with a few sentences so that perhaps if the board is interested in putting them in the approval, that they could be engraved in stone?
I would love that.
Yeah. Adam? I mean, you're gonna know what they are at this point. It's not like you don't have to make Elizabeth happy, you know, and you don't have to make him happy. You don't have to be happy. You just have to be, it has to be acceptable to both of you.
Yeah. I think that, and Adam, this is one of my concerns, is that, I mean, I think we can both agree at this point that we're going to work together, but my concern is as we venture, as the process leaves this room and we're just working together as neighbors, is what do we do if we're in a situation where, you know, we think there should be more screening in an area and you disagree, and how do we deal with that? And I don't want it to be a situation where we necessarily need to get the board or some outside party involved. But I think it's important to me that in one of the initial meetings, I left here very upset because the tone that I thought you struck was, this is my property and to hell with everybody else. I'm going to do whatever I please with it, regardless of how it impacts other people. And that concerns me because we live right next to you, and it may not be a big deal to you, but it could be a very big deal to us. And we don't want to overburden you certainly, and we understand that it's your property, and in many ways you do have the right to do what you want to with that property. But we hope that we can work respectfully with you, and you know what? There will be times when, even though we think maybe we'd like something, that maybe it's too much for you to do, but we also want that to be a two-way street, so that there may be things that you think, those people are crazy, I can't believe they want a tree here. But, you know, if it makes us happy and it keeps the peace, then maybe we could agree to put the tree in, that type of thing. So, John, to your point, I appreciate the suggestion. I don't necessarily know how to best to boil that down into language. And I'm open to suggestions.
I would kind of rather not put it into,
Yeah,
because
well-
it doesn't seem like anything we can really,
Sorry?
I'd kind of rather not do
Rather
that.
not
And
what?
as a point of this process, I don't think we can condition a definitive subdivision for something on a private house lot. It's effectively a planning board covenant on a private house lot. I think we're all here, we're all discussing, these two are gonna be neighbors. This is all recorded on video. I would be blown away if
Yeah,
if
my
this-
my word should be enough, because I know how many, I will work with you to make it right. But so that should be enough at this point, I really think so. You know, otherwise, we don't have any trust between each other, basically what it boils down to.
I don't want to create encumbrance on the property for, you know, we've put it on plan, he's made a lot of changes to the plans, there's been a lot of money spent on the plans. You know, there's clearly an effort. If he didn't want to work, he would have just said no in the first place and said, we can do what we want on the lots.
Honestly, that's part of my issue, is because at some of the very first meetings on this, is that the plans were proposed, and as an abutter, I provided my feelings, and the board did as well, and part of it was to pull the driveway further off the property, and rather than that happening, the driveway actually moved closer to our property. So I'm coming at this feeling not entirely trustful, because, and to the extent that you, either one of you continues to mention cost, my feeling is you created that issue. And the cul-de-sac is another issue, and that evolved, and I think that ended up in a good place. But to the extent everybody in this room conveyed how they felt about that road, and I feel like that was ignored, and at your own risk, you chose to pull it closer, and to the extent that there were additional costs incurred as a result of moving it further out, I think that that's your own
I think there's a
responsibility.
misunderstanding. We did take those concerns, and I was one doing the designs, and this was a big concern from the start. We did pull away. We thought we were addressing there, and it wasn't quite what you were expecting. So we worked it and we adjusted it, and I think we got to a good. It sounds like we're at a good middle ground, or we're at a reasonable ground here, where we've made these adjustments and fine-tuned it. We did make efforts to pull it away. And, you know, it started, I want to say 10 or 15 feet. We moved it to 25, and then this last change moved it even further away based on the last comments we heard, after doing the site walk. So, you know, we were working on accommodating that, and I think we've gotten there. We did focus a lot on the screening and the landscaping too, so that if there was a misunderstanding there, I apologize for that. But there was never any, you know, I was doing the plan edits. There certainly were not any ill intentions there.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely
that.
not.
Well, I think I would defer to the board as to whether the board believes that it is appropriate to condition, to work in any of this discussion into the decision. I think you've heard both sides, and I hope that we can work together amicably going forward. But it always feels better to know that it's actually in writing somewhere.
Well, I think we need to have that discussion. I'm not sure if we want to have it right now, but we could, if you'd like to.
I don't know about right now.
I don't know about right now either. I'd like to have it within the context of the waivers that you're asking for and where they fit within the overall scenario of what the board's responsibility is, and then acknowledging the changes that you've made to date, and then acknowledging that this is an outstanding issue that we think, I mean, I can tell you what my feelings are, that we think ought to be addressed. I mean, we think it ought to be addressed. So the question is, how do we express that?
Well, the context of what I was thinking about when I threw out that suggestion was not that you go move the road if everybody's unhappy. That's totally unreasonable. But I don't think it's unreasonable to throw a few more trees in there, or bushes or something, to provide a little more visual screening for the headlights. It looks like the headlight should be below the level of the finished floor of the house, of Elizabeth's house. So it probably isn't going to be a problem. However, if somebody comes in with the high beams on, which I would be very much inclined to do if I were visiting you for the first time, because I'm sure as I'm going to be worried that I'm going to go off the road. It's an unfamiliar, it's a dirt road, it's unfamiliar, etc. That could be problematic.
Yeah.
Can I ask just a point of process, when you guys are finishing out a road, do you do a final site walk to see the conditions of it, even for a road that's going to stay private? What's your involvement post-construction? Because I think what we're
So
talking
I guess
about...
it depends. You know, I quite honestly on this one, we hadn't thought about it.
Right.
It's a long driveway.
Right, I mean, I think, you know, I don't want to speak out of turn for you, but I think everybody, I would be fine with a final site walk once things are up. We'll drive the car out there and make sure everybody's happy, whoever wants to attend that. I mean, I'm sure they'll be working together anyways along the side, but I think you're doing a final as-built anyways to look at the construction of the road, make sure everything meets the
Just to give you
plans.
That's exactly in the context of what I was suggesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the perspective is, you know, some large projects we work on, we talk about landscaping and we talk about the fact that, well, you do the best you can and we'll do a visit in a year and we see how the landscape is doing, and if it's, you know, if it's dead or if it's not doing its job, then you'll address it. That's what we do. So if
I don't,
you
that doesn't strike me as being unreasonable.
you know,
If I were in either of your shoes, I'd buy that.
yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to stipulate that.
What's that?
I just don't want to have any verbiage saying, I have to satisfy my neighbor. Because I don't know.
I'm not
No.
looking for
I
that.
tried to say that a couple of
No,
times.
no,
I'm not looking for that, because I don't think that's a...
That's not an appropriate thing for the
Yeah.
board to say. But we obviously have implied throughout the whole process that we think that working with your neighbor is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's all.
And that's why we have the subdivision rules and regulations.
And I appreciate
It's
the
to
work
not
you've done.
offend any more people than we have to, you know?
Yeah, so if it was looked at in the end, like you said, it was the end of the site visit, and
Yeah.
everybody agreed that we did our job of trying to help the
Yeah.
screen buffer, then I'd be good with that.
Okay.
And I think the only, that sounds reasonable to me. The only thing that I want to raise is that I think that some of the, I'm anticipating, Adam, that you're going to put in vegetation that your planning will grow over the course of time. So I don't want to hold you to a standard of whatever it is in a year, that it's necessarily going to screen 100% and perfectly. Because I think we have to anticipate that things are going to grow, and some of this stuff may need to be pretty big to actually do its job. It may take a couple of years to fill in.
Yeah.
So I guess the only thing that I would ask is that perhaps to have that visit and then to kind of
Yeah.
keep stuff open for a certain period of time, so that if
We
there
can
is
do
an
that.
issue or things die or
We can
they
do
don't
that.
fill in as we hope that they will, that
Yeah.
there's a mechanism to address that.
Yep. So we're going to try to work on language that addresses that and does not obligate you to satisfy the world. Okay. All right. I'd like to move on to two letters. The first was from Sam, or from Adam to Sam, and Sam's response. And I must admit, I'm a little concerned with Sam's response because it seems a little vague to me. And I don't know if you have a chance to read this?
Yes.
Did you have a response to it? Did you share this?
It was pretty wide open.
Pretty wide open. And so I was surprised to see that. And my reading of the code is that a barn with those kinds of things is ancillary to the primary resident.
Right.
If you own it. So I think I need a discussion with Sam about his letter. And you concur, you and I can do that with Martha. Have you gotten back to Sam at all?
He and I spoke briefly, but I haven't read his letter.
Yeah, well, we just got this
Sure.
today. But the quick perusal of it,
It's basically what you provided.
no, you want Sam's.
The response, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have a copy with me, but,
And actually,
Do you have a copy for,
and actually, basically, things, I should put it
yeah,
here.
You need a
Things
copy? There is an extra.
yeah, and
There you go.
this actually is a signed original, which I think should have stayed with you
Okay.
for your file.
Since this, I guess things had changed a little bit, but I wanted to check with Sam, make sure it's okay that I store tools inside the barn. Brother lives in the other half, store tools inside the barn, nothing outside, which I realized after construction. So even after this letter, my intentions have changed a little bit. I won't be running any business out of that per se. I have another location, a commercial location I'll be purchasing. But I will be storing tools and stuff in the barn. So I want to make sure that that under the zoning law is okay, he said.
and that's where we have to double back with him, because our reading of the code says if you were you, Adam, were the
Yeah.
owner and living there, you can do it. But
Okay.
you, having your brother as a tenant,
Right, you mean,
I don't think that does it, but we're open to discussion with people to see what.
right, and that's why I brought it just back to storage.
Yeah,
But you
okay.
can store whatever you want, in the rest of the house, but you can't run any sort of
So,
business.
so
Like
it's
store
a
my
different
tools.
interpretation.
It's different, it's totally different, yeah.
Were you talking about
We
inside,
changed, yeah,
inside the building?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we won't actually.
So you want to send it, you want to send a new letter to Sam?
I think
clarify?
basically he said either way that it didn't matter. That letter, the way I worded it before or after is fine because I basically follow the definition of not running a business out of it, we're just storing tools.
Right, and basically what he says is if it's tools and equipment for your personal use,
That's it.
that's okay. If you were doing it not for personal
Right.
use, then that would be
Exactly.
prohibited.
Yeah, so it's basically just gonna be storage of my own personal stuff.
That's exterior, that component, right?
That
Nothing
was it.
exterior, only interior.
Yeah, he's saying it's prohibited exterior for any
Prohibited is
commercial.
prohibited. yeah.
Right, but then the next one, he says it's permitted inside if it's in compliance with the state building code. Since there is an occupied unit.
And I
there needs to
don't
be
know
a
what that
separation.
means. Do you know what that means? I'm just, if you're familiar with the state building code as it applies to that, do you?
Yeah, it's an occupied apartment. It's not just a storage barn,
Yeah.
it's serving a residential function.
Right, so you
You
need
know.
separation between the two
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
I'm presuming it's fire separation among other things, depending on what's being stored.
Well, I would just like to have a discussion with you and Sam, and if you would like to.
Yeah, I would
Appreciate it.
I agree with what you guys are all saying relative to zoning, but I would raise the question, do we have jurisdiction in this? Granted, we propose zoning bylaws. I don't think anywhere I've ever read that we enforce them. That's the
No,
building
but we're-
inspector
we're-
in his hat, under his hat of being code
We're
enforcement officer.
we're questioning,
Pardon?
we're asking a question on his interpretation.
Right, but
That's all we're doing.
it's his interpretation.
It's his.
If it's okay with him, no
If
matter what we
If
think,
it
doesn't
eventually is
matter.
okay with Sam, it's okay.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm clear.
Okay, so we need to go back and have a discussion with Sam. The fire guys are gonna meet. It looks like there's no problem. I mean, as far as I can
I
tell.
wouldn't think so.
But you never know, and when's our next meeting would be the 20th?
It's the 18th
18th, and they meet on the 16th,
or the 23rd.
or?
And
Oh, that would be bad. I mean,
We're gonna-
I mean, I feel
for
pretty
the best.
confident that they're not gonna screw around, but maybe we can get another read from, who's on that board?
Doug Janvin, Doug Packer, Nate, I'm not sure who else, do you know?
I don't know who else. You named the only two that I could have named.
There's only two I could name.
Yeah.
I believe it's 5.
Nate obviously is,
Right.
he must be on it.
Right, I think it's 5,
Yeah.
5
How
total.
about Wally?
Maybe.
Wally Zeeler, he's the captain here.
Right.
No, I mean, there in Old Town.
Right,
I mean,
probably is.
I mean, I'd just be surprised if they would go against Nate and Doug. So anyway, I mean, I feel pretty confident with what Nate is saying. So now I'd also like to ask the board, if you've got a copy of this and you have your really, the bifocal reading glasses, to look at the waivers that are being requested rather. Oh, look at this.
I can't read that.
We have a blow-up. Knowing the dotage
Our age.
of the aged board members. Oh, okay. Requested waivers from subdivision regs. Following is a list of requested waivers from Chapter 117, Articles 3 and 4 subdivision planning board rules and regs. Town of Newbury, Mass. Okay. Number 1, 3/117/18, A3 environmental analysis. The proposed development consists of 3 lots. Section 117/18, C1G allows for waiving the requirement of an environmental analysis for development of 5 lots or less. Do we have any thoughts on this in any way?
I'm positive on that.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
Sure.
So am I. So I thought what we would do here is go through these and maybe take a preliminary vote of the board that's not binding, but you get an idea about where we stand on things. Then when we do write up the final decision, it'll be written into the decision. Is that okay? So you'll see where the board sits on these, okay? Okay, so I agree. I don't think that's an issue at all. Table 4, number 2, item 4/17/23, table of general layout and dimensions, surface gravel, required asphalt, no sidewalk, 5 feet required, right-of-way 40 feet, 53 feet required. Now this is a substantial differential, but does the board have any thoughts on this in terms of how this fits relative to the size of the project and
It's going to be a lightly used road in the circle.
Doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it's fine.
John?
The less road, the better, from my
That's my
perspective,
perspective,
up
too.
to a point. And if it's, the point starts where the fire chief gets nervous.
Right.
And if he's happy, I'm happy.
But as far as I can tell, he's okay with this.
Yeah, that's what I understand. I'm
So-
a little surprised, honestly, but if he's happy, I.
That's because
no
Adam
objection.
sweet talked him, and that's as simple as
He
that.
drives that bus.
No, I concur.
I think you guys should talk to him.
I think this is.
What's that?
I think you guys sweet talk to him.
No, I think it's a good thing to do. So that's going to make it fit environmentally and from your perspective of what you want to build. Okay, number 3, 4/117/23B, cul-de-sac streets. The proposed cul-de-sac provides 110-foot sideline diameter, 95-foot roadway diameter, and 25-foot pavement required 165. So that's a 165 versus 110, 140 versus 95, and 25 versus 25, but pavement versus gravel. So that is different, but it's fitting, in my opinion, with the overall design of the project. Anybody else have thoughts on this?
This does reflect the change that was made?
Yes.
Okay, I have no problem with
I don't either. Okay. Item number 4, 11731 fire protection requires a $20,000 gallon underground water storage tank in areas not served by the Newburyport Water Department or the Byfield Water District. The proposed development is not within either of these areas. Each home will be provided with an alarm system. Now, the only question I had on this is that, the alarm systems aren't tied to the fire department. They're just alarm systems.
It's like a ADT.
Yeah.
So if there's an emergency at the house, he's gonna get notified of it, and and
Right.
the whole house is gonna go. So
Yeah.
whether he's there or not, he's gonna know something's going on.
Which I think that's reasonable. Do we ever require this of some more stringent?
And in this case, the fire department is okay with this and okay having the alarm system, so.
Okay. And this kind of alarm system, not tied to the,
Yes, not tied to the fire station.
or the, it's not police, no, it's just fire.
Right. And I think the other part of this really ties into the changes that were made to the cul-de-sac and the driveway to have it be accessible so that the fire truck can get down there easily, in snow situations and things like that.
Yeah, I would concur. Number 5, section 4/117/21D, street location and alignment. The proposed street provides a 30-foot radius on the west side of the right-of-way and no radius on the east side. Required 30-foot radius on both sides of the intersection. I'm not sure if I understood this one.
There's not enough room for 30.
Oh, that's the radius as you come out of the driveway, right?
Out of the street.
Any thoughts on that?
I looked at the sidelines, it didn't seem to be a problem.
You were also going to do some kind of cutting back of bushes and things like that in order to facilitate this.
Refresh the board's memory. This was, I don't know if you wanted to see this
Yeah.
as well.
I can.
I'm sure everybody's up. This is where we're asking, this is the existing curb cut. When we did our site walk, we all stood right here and looked at the sight lines going in each direction. And Mr. True has already trimmed back and grown this area. There was a fence here that's been pulled back to improve that sight line. But this is really the optimal location. It's furthest from the curb. It's along the straightaway, and it provides the best visibility in both directions. And I think when we were on site, we all looked at that.
Okay.
Well, that isn't going to be the most heavily traveled road in town by any means.
I would hope not. I would hope not.
Yeah. Does the front barn have any access onto High Road?
It does have a driveway now here.
Are you going to get rid of that, or?
Right now, it's going to stay because this is an entrance into the barn
Mm-hmm.
right now. But the main entrance will be coming off of
Because
this road.
this is a tough sightline, so this will actually be a lot better
Right,
than that.
right. This will be more utilitarian, I would expect,
Okay.
after this is done.
Okay. Any problems with any of that?
Nope.
Okay. All right, all five, the board is in favor of it. So we will, when we write up our decision, we will note that. So have I covered the letters from the fire chief, from the building inspector, and waivers? So I think what we were going to do, we talked about the condition of you working collaboratively with the abutters. It appears that Mr. Kennedy is satisfied because he's not here. So that's good.
Martha had mentioned an issue regarding, it was a fire issue, I think. What the heck was it? Assurance, formal assurance that the road gets plowed.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if I lived there, I would certainly want to plow the road, but,
Right, and that's actually an additional exhibit for the homeowners trust, which will be written into it.
yeah. Oh, it's, okay, so it's okay now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the original copy that I dropped off.
You just didn't have it.
Stapled as an appendix.
Yeah.
The copies that got made didn't have it.
Fine.
The last sentence says the whole circle's there, isn't that circle?
The entire circle's gonna be
Yeah.
free of snow.
So it says circles.
So
You got
oh,
a typo.
pluralize it?
Yeah.
You got a typo.
Okay.
Take the yes off, you're all set.
Yeah,
Well, it says circles, do they mean the cul-de-sac?
And there's a second one with the home.
Yeah, the whole circle's the area.
This could have been dictated, and circles sounds like circles.
There's only one circle that I know of.
Yeah.
The turnaround at the house he's going to construct as well, that might be referring to.
I think
but
actually.
wouldn't this only apply to the roads that are shared? I mean, that's his, once he comes off of that, that's his responsibility to get to his house.
Yeah, it should just be the whole circle.
Right. I think there's a missing apostrophe.
Apostrophe, yeah. Should have been,
So
I didn't pay attention in English very well.
They should have said the cul-de-sac or the road,
Cul-de-sac.
Right.
Well,
as
is it-
opposed to circles.
Yeah, it could be apostrophe yes instead.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a process, yes. Okay,
okay, apostrophe, yes, yeah.
all right.
But there are a few other edits to the homeowners agreement and stuff, so all of that can be picked up.
Yeah, one was like a date to 2017.
Yeah,
maybe?
2017 and a few
Uh,
other, mostly kind of housekeeping edits and stuff, so I was waiting to see if the board had any other comments before.
On those documents that I honestly did not have a chance to go over in detail, should we have Ginny review those documents? Would that be better?
It's basically
Or
there.
what were your thoughts? I mean, I'm looking at you as
I've
the
I've looked
attorney.
through it, there's a lot of things that I thought were good, a couple of things that I think ought to be changed, but they're not significant.
Then maybe we shouldn't spend the money. I mean, I just, if you think that they're generally
It's small
fine.
items, I mean, there's, on the covenants, the original covenants that you're subject to, it says no chain link fence, I noticed that one's missing. Was that intentional?
Should have been in there.
Thought it was there.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Actually, thought I saw something about
You may have. I just felt the thing, I read it pretty quickly.
This is the wrong one. Something
And I don't happen to have it with me right now.
Well, what should we do
Okay.
about that? Should we just ask George to get you his specific red line version?
Yes, and then I could
Can you do that?
incorporate
I can do
those
that,
with
yeah.
my comments.
And I'd rely on yours.
Thanks.
And we could double check, I'm looking quickly, I'm not sure I see. Oh, yeah, no above ground swimming pools, chain link fences, clotheslines, satellite dishes, or transmitting antenna should be permitted. So that's in
Gotta
there.
get those clotheslines.
The only transmitting antennas you're allowed to provide is anybody who has an amateur radio license. That's federal FCC regulations.
AM radio.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't drive outside of
They
Massachusetts.
have to be able to have antennas to be able to do what they need to do.
And Adam, just in terms of, I didn't spend a lot of time reading them,
Mhm.
but on the section, I'm not gonna remember the exact section, but the part that deals with the no further subdivision of your
Yeah,
intended
yeah,
lot,
yeah.
and it says in perpetuity, which means forever, basically, that we change hands. There's a statute in Massachusetts, you might just want to talk to your counsel and.
Yeah, can actually, I talked to my lawyer about it. He says we can do it, we can, but there's nothing saying after 30 years.
Exactly.
And there's no way around it, I asked him. It has to be updated every 30 years. So that was the only answer he had for me.
So and maybe that's something.
After 30 years, we have to re-up it, but
So something to consider is whether, it may not be something that you can do as in the documentation that you prepare, but I don't know whether that's something that could be worked into the decision, the board.
and I asked about that, it can't be stipulated
Yeah,
either.
Okay.
it's a goodwill thing.
Yeah, it's 30 years, and hopefully it just keeps running with the deed as it's recovered.
Okay.
And I have one sort of related question.
Mhm.
That I don't know whether, and this may have been covered previously, but I know, Adam, that you had talked about putting the property, in addition to not having it be further subdivided, that the property would be put in conservation. And I don't know whether that's covered, and again, I read these very quickly, so you
No,
may
I
have
didn't
covered that.
cover that part. I really haven't made up my mind on that part yet, exactly. I know that the land will be going back into 61A chapter, farmland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So everything from your house forward to the subdivision line?
Yeah.
With the new
We'll be
house?
going back in. I tried to not even have it come out in the first place, but we couldn't because of the way the changes were. So I had to remove it and now put it back in. So, but as
So
far
what are
as
the current- What are the current timelines on that? Except for that, you could take it back out at any time, am I right?
Yeah,
The town would have a right.
Right of first refusal, which they, as far as I
I
can
think that's
tell,
only
have
been
never
sold, though.
exercised.
when it's sold, yeah.
Right.
Well, you can pay the back taxes on it.
Right, but he, Adam,
But
so.
that's okay.
I just, and that surprises me, Adam, because that was, I think, a big part of, or I interpreted as a big part of your presentation back to the Board of Selectmen, that you intended to put the property in, restrict it and have it be held in conservation. And frankly, that was a big reason my husband and I decided not to pursue the purchase. Because we had been talking to conservation agencies that were willing to work with us, but because of that representation, we decided not to do that. So we really did rely upon that representation that you made. So that's a significant issue to me.
I'm not sure that I don't know that, we're talking about a piece of property that's not even on paper yet. I don't know how to conserve it, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. All I know is my intentions, and all I can do is convey them to you at this point. And really, I mean, there's nothing else I can do. I haven't sat down and thought about how I'd like to conserve the land, nor do I know how to, especially when I gotta go from land to lot to 61A to, you know.
Right, I understand
I
that.
have so many other things going on.
I-
It's just like,
I
can't-
appreciate that, I just want to convey to you sort of the reason we opted not to take action was based on that representation. I understand there's a ton of moving parts here, and that,
Yeah.
you know, you sort of got to get A, B, and C lined up before you can handle D.
Right.
But D is very important to us, particularly if there's a risk that the property could be further subdivided down the road.
It would be at least 30 years, I guess.
Well, I understand that, but, you know, I hope to be alive and kicking in 30 years. So I don't want to be dealing with the same process in 30 years.
Martha, that doesn't lend itself to a strange-looking OSRD process, does it?
No, no.
You know, there could be, you know, similar to what other homeowners have done, they, Adam could put a conservation restriction on some portion, some designated portion of the property, but it wouldn't be tied into an OSRD process. And we'd probably want to find somebody like Essex County Greenbelt or somebody who has a restriction.
To hold it so that it doesn't expire in X amount of years, that in fact does
That would be in
continue in perpetuity.
Right, right, as long as the state approves the restriction.
Right.
We would have to go through that process.
But Adam's not sure that he wants to do that yet. Right?
That's what he's saying now, although he represented both the Board of Selectmen and this board, that he fully intended to do that as part of his.
I'm not sure that I did represent that. Excuse me. No, I just represented that I would be restricting the property from being further subdivided. I didn't represent that I would be putting in a preservation trust or anything like that, as I can recall. So,
I mean, there's video.
Or
so
conservation
If it comes to that.
Sure,
can
well, we
certainly-
can go back and check the record. I don't know how,
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it'd be nice.
okay. Are there any other issues people would like to talk about?
I want to get back to the conservation issue again. The plan could show, I'm talking with Scott, the plan could show an optional conservation area.
I'm reading an article on that now. I was involved with the process. The article here, this is from December 10th, 2015. Census prevent any further development. The Trews intend to de-restrict the agricultural land, which connects to a number of town trails and conservation land. It doesn't say to
What?
put it into conservation restriction. It says this quotes the Trews intend to de-restrict the agricultural land, which he's doing by not allowing any further development of the lot, and he's going to put a portion back into 61A. So in itself, putting it back into 61A, if anything were to ever happen to develop it, it would go back to the town, you know.
Is this a case where the lack of specificity works against Adam as rather than in his favor?
Yeah.
Sounds to me like it's just vague enough for him to get hung without him being able to do anything serious to bother anyone else.
I mean, if you listen to the tape, I didn't.
Huh?
I didn't ever say that I would put the land in conservation use, whatever. I don't know exactly what.
It was reference to some conservation
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
public use.
Yeah, more conservation-minded plan, where he would be living for many years. I'm just reading, this is from,
But I can't know what, I
Michael,
don't know what
example.
and how to restrict, you know, and how any of that would work. I've never done it, and nor do I know until I sit down with somebody like the Greenbelt or, you know, one of those companies to talk to them about it. And even then, it would be probably a portion and not the whole, you know, land, or I don't know how it works, so.
I think
I don't know if that it's this board's, you know, is this something that you guys, is it fall into your jurisdiction to try to regulate this part of the process, I guess?
I raised it simply because it was my understanding that you had represented both to the Board of Selectmen and this board that that was your intent, and perhaps I misunderstood what you meant by conservation. But just to some of the information I obtained in going through this process is that I think some of those organizations are very willing to work with people and educate them and help you through the process. And I don't think it's actually a cumbersome situation, and that basically what they shared with me was that there's all different ways that you can restrict the property and hold it in conservation, and that you can sort of build out what you want to do with it. So for instance, if you wanted to forest some of it, you could still do that. You would just build out enough sort of breadth so that you could still do what you wanted to do, because you know what you want to do and you may trust in yourself.
Well, and I kind of don't know what I want to do until I get there.
Yeah.
So, I think, I was involved in the selecting process, and honestly, I think we're getting a little off track here. I'm very appreciative of that. I'm going by an article here. The process of going through a CR on a couple acres of land that might be at the back of his property is going to be at least a $20,000 venture once you're done with all the legal fees that are associated with that.
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second, Scott, because I think that's a red herring. I think that these organizations will do it at minimal or no charge.
It's a small piece of land, and he hasn't committed to it, and it's a very big step. He's saying so tonight. It's not part of what we're proposing. The intent at the beginning of this, and his intent was always to limit the development on the land, so he's not going for 6 lots, he's going for 3. He's providing a very large tract of land where he's going to live. It's going to be preserved, there's going to be a 30-year covenant. I mean, he's put a lot of effort into this, and he's not trying to jam something bigger and greater in there.
Okay.
I'm just going to say one last thing, John, because this is where my lack of trust comes, because it was represented to me multiple times, both publicly and privately, that he intended to conserve the property. And I understand that perhaps we didn't have a meeting of the minds as to what the word conserve meant, but this is where my lack of trust comes, because I feel very, very misled at this point, because from the get-go, my very clear understanding was that the intent was agreed to build only 3 lots, but that your lot would be put into conservation, not only to restrict further development of it in terms of the subdivision, but to preserve the current state of the property. And I think that was said pretty expressly on multiple occasions. So I do have very strong concerns about how this process will play out once we leave this room. I feel very misled right now.
So I think we can go back and take a look at what was said. I'm not sure if it's what it means, but we will take a look at what was said, and we'll compare that to what you're proposing. That's what we'll do. So, any other item people want to talk about? So, I guess in summary, we will meet again on the 18th. We will prepare to vote. We have a decision written by then?
I can start drafting the decision. The board hasn't really discussed conditions. There may be some that would come out of the Board of Fire Engineers. Don't know that. Sounds like Nate feels fairly satisfied, fairly comfortable. But
Well, I think most of the conditions have come forward in our discussion, haven't they not?
So
I mean, the major one we just discussed was a condition that the developer work cooperatively with the adjacent property owners and work out a landscape plan and revisit it a year after it's done. And that's always been one of our major concerns. The other condition may have something to do with what our discussion that we're going to have with Sam. But now that I think I understand a little better about what you're going to use that for, anyway, so that's changed.
Yeah.
But it would be helpful if you could articulate in writing to Martha what the change is. Could you do that?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just respond, well, yes, you said verbally this is what you're going to do, but let's get that in writing, okay? And like right away.
Sure.
Okay?
So I guess there are a couple of questions. One, does the board feel, with some additional information coming, probably the public hearing should be continued.
Yeah, I think so.
And the other issue, which I mentioned in my email, is that the 135 days is going to be up on January 19th.
Right, so we have got to make a decision on the 18th, or the only way to extend it is if the developer asks to extend it.
Right, and if that were to happen, I do have a form here, if everybody could kind of agree on a date. And if it's the 19th, basically, the decision would have to be completed to everybody's satisfaction on the 18th and then get filed the next day.
Cool. Well, let's,
So a little bit of time.
2
would be-
weeks, 2 weeks worth of a lot of work. Well, that's going to be tight. I mean, that would give you real, I mean, for us to really act on that, Martha, it means it would have to be written in a week, and then give the board members another week to review it, to make sure they're okay with it, and then vote on it.
Right.
How long a decision is this going to be? A 6 to 10 page decision?
Probably, I mean, summarizing
Yeah.
the discussion.
Which you have to do.
Right, and the waivers, and then whatever conditions.
Well, let's try to do it, because it'd be nice to get this done within the time frame.
All right, it's just, it'll be tight. But we could, I suppose if it looks like there's some hanging ends, then perhaps at the next meeting, if it needs to be extended, it would be if
Would you be
You know,
willing
if
to
the
extend
applicants
it?
will.
Let's
Let's
address,
ask Adam what he's feeling.
let's see what we can do for the 18th. I know there's some work to be done. You know, we've certainly been doing a lot of work on our end, and I know
Okay.
this is a very gracious for the volunteer time that everybody puts in here. Let's see what we can do for the 18th. We'll talk about it on the
Okay.
18th. And if we need another day or two to finish up some loose ends afterwards, you know.
Okay. So, I think we don't need to do much more on this, right?
continue.
Except have a motion to continue the public hearing.
You want a continuation?
Yes.
I move to continue the public hearing on this matter until January 18th at time certain of 7:15.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ongoing old business. As it, on the master plan, Martha has been able to execute an extension of the plan to March 31st with, and it's terrible, what's their name again?
Community opportunity.
Community Opportunities Group. We haven't seen them in a while.
No.
Although, Martha, we did receive a updated, remember the thing we had at the last of the 2006 plan that had to do with the chart that had, here's the action item, who's responsible, and here's the number of years, and this is the cost involved. Well, they've updated that. And so we have to look at that and then get that to you all, and then have them come in and have a discussion with us about that. And hopefully we can do that by the end of January. Yeah, we should be able to do that.
Yeah, and basically, we had left it with Roberta that we would try to get everything that is our responsibility to them by the end of January.
Right. And we're making some progress still on, we have some updates on the capital improvement plan and stuff, or the community facilities, rather. The zoning amendments, I do have, the only thing that I have been working on, last time I came here, or maybe it was two, I had been given the responsibility of taking a look at the noise ordinances, and I have. And DEP has a statewide ordinance, and then there's not many towns that have noise ordinances, especially on the North Shore, as you would expect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Towns
all
like,
those rich folks live.
towns like Lincoln have some very strict ones. Brookline has some very strict ones.
Yeah.
But it's different. But I did find one for Hanover, which really does address mostly construction. And so maybe I'll work on that and see if Sam still has this initial. Last time we spoke with him, he said he wasn't getting complaints about it anymore. So I don't know how high. He's the one who asked for it, and it's not us. It's a bylaw. It's not a zoning.
Not a zoning issue.
No, it's not a zoning issue.
Yeah.
So when we meet with him on the other thing, we can maybe
Talk about
talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, well, we still haven't done the hike.
When do you want to go to Plum Island?
I could do it. Let's do it next week. Let's do it. Let me just see. What's Tuesday? What's the date on Tuesday?
Tuesday? Next Tuesday's the 10th.
I could do that.
I can do it in the afternoon. No, I do not.
Where are
Do you
we
want to do
going?
this, or George and I got to do it by ourselves?
Unless we
It's
have
the height
addresses.
issue.
Where?
The height issue out on Plum Island.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
You're going.
Tuesday's not good for me.
Yeah, I can't do it Tuesday afternoon.
And I can't do it Tuesday morning.
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday looks good.
I can. Wednesday, the 11th, at 10 a.m. Why don't we have it, you pick up Martha here, and then come by and get me? Is that all right?
Yep, that's good.
So 10 here, and you get me like at 10:15. Is that all right? Okay. And open meeting law ethics training, but we don't.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check, the training link is on the town's website if anybody didn't see it that wants to or wants to see it again.
Compelling.
And I do have handouts, not with me, but for anybody who would like to have them.
In the parking lot?
And there has been the next item is proposed parking. There's been a request to look at the possibility of creating some head-in parking at the American Legion Park in Byfield on Central Street, right next to the post office, to deal with overflow for the Community Arts Center and various other things. And Tracy has requested that we get a proposal from Tony Komornick at MVPC to actually do a kind of a broader look at parking in Byfield. When we did the traffic changes a few years ago, that really wasn't part of it. We were looking more at intersections and road safety and some sidewalks and crosswalks, but not really the parking issue. So I have been in touch with Tony about that, but we haven't yet gotten an estimate of what the LTA time would be. But I know there are folks that actually have been up looking at it a little bit, but maybe we'll leave it at that. But if you all have any thoughts about that parking at that particular location, bless you, or otherwise, maybe we could talk about it at the next.
I don't know it well enough.
Is there a group that feels very, very strongly about that square parcel, that park? It seems to me somebody told me that you could start a civil war if you touch anything there.
I don't know. I mean, I think there was at one time, back when
Okay.
it was designated the American Legion Park, and there were funds set aside for its maintenance every year.
Yeah.
The fact that it has been designated as a park, I think Ginny was checking to see if in fact there needs to be some
I'm sure there
process
does.
outside of us.
I'm sure there has to be.
There is.
Right, you have to take a park out of use and use it for another use.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
I mean, you got to go through some hoops,
Yeah, I think it's the legislature.
Legislature.
To do that.
Yeah.
which means
So who's asking that this to
Chuck.
happen?
Well,
Who?
Chuck?
Chuck has.
Oh, Chuck.
Chuck has made the request. I
Ah.
think he's had people making the request of him.
That they need, the census, they need more parking
They
in
need more
downtown
parking.
Lakeville.
Right, right.
That's worth looking at.
They do have some amazing turnouts to their events.
Really?
The place is thriving.
Isn't that good to hear? Who runs it?
Well, it's a Byfield.
There's some volunteers.
Right, it's the
Yeah.
Community Arts Center. It's basically Heidi Fram and Linda Allen.
Lavelle,
Well, oh,
And
good for
Steve-
them.
and Steve Fram.
Oh, you know.
Heidi and Linda?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay, so Sam, excuse me, so Tony thinks he'll start this maybe in a month?
I haven't, I know Tracy was actually hoping for something this month. But I don't know how soon he's actually going to be able to get to it.
Okay. Financial report for December 2016?
And I have that here. I don't know if everybody needs to see it, or if you want to, George signed a couple of those since you
that
were
was
away.
very exciting.
Oh, I see. So which ones did you sign? It was supposed to report out, right?
Three. Verizon,
So why don't you read what you signed?
the planning board December 2016 financial report, payroll and invoices assigned. Payroll warrants, PR 12 and PR 13 for the pay periods ending December 10 and December 24. Verizon Wireless invoice on December 10. Joe Swatka invoice dated December 18 for 101 Newburyport Turnpike. Joe Swatka invoice dated December 18 for 255 High Road. That ends the report.
And that's what you signed?
That's what I signed.
Both. Any comments from board members on that?
Please.
I'm still spluttering from having to do this.
I don't blame you.
The thing that is insane, any well-run organization in the world controls commitment of funds, which is not the same as spending funds. Once you have committed, which apparently we can all do with gay abandon, you have to pay.
Right.
You don't have a choice of
You're
approving
obligated
a
to pay.
payment. If you committed the funds, you gotta pay the damn bill. You have to. I mean, I just boggles the mind.
Yes, it does. Okay,
Anyway.
moving on. Liaison reports, Board of Selectmen.
There's a
Oh, I
backside,
thought we
Joe.
were done.
I did too. Thank God I'm on top of things today.
Board of Selectmen, they did meet last night, and they voted, they approved the warrant for the special town meeting to be held on the 31st, which does include the warrant article for appropriating funds for the public safety building, or not public safety, the police station and.
For up to 6.4.
They didn't really state it. It will be the motion at the meeting, but yes, 6.5.
Okay, good. MVPC has not met since I spoke with you guys last. All we know is the woman
Have
from,
you met the new director?
I have.
Yeah, she was at our meeting this morning.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah, she didn't have much
Which
to
meeting
say
was
on
that?
it. Pardon?
What was that? What
The
meeting?
Stormwater
Oh, the
Coalition.
Stormwater
Yeah.
Coalition.
Doing
No,
Road.
I'm not sure if MVPC is gonna meet in January yet. They were talking about not doing that. So anyway, so she's up and running, and I think she's gonna be great. Concom, John?
Yeah, I did speak to Doug briefly, and we never finished the conversation relative to stormwater responsibilities. The impression I got was that he, or nor I for that matter, sees any way that when you're outside of the jurisdiction of 131, they can be tasked with stormwater monitoring, approvals, and so forth. To my way of thinking, it's clearly the planning board's responsibility. Not the MS4, that is not, but the approval of designs and construction of stormwater facilities are no different than roads, sidewalks, whatever. It's a part of a subdivision, it's part of a site. If it's adjacent to a wetland, it's clearly the Concom's responsibility as well. But if it's an upland like the church over here,
Right.
totally upland, not within a country mile of wetlands, it's clearly totally the responsibility of the planning board.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, it does, it's just that we don't have the expertise.
Well, Jim is going to develop it.
That's why we have John. We have the expertise, and then Jim is going to be,
If we don't have John, we're not gonna have John.
yeah, but Jim will be his successor.
Yeah, Jim appears to be interested enough to,
It was the reason why we were happy to see it move away. Okay,
well, I was in favor of it certainly for reasons that should be obvious to you, John.
yes. ZBA?
CBA, there was a meeting on December 15th, which I was not able to attend.
Mhm.
I think it had to do primarily with the development of the Mr. Mo's site into an ice cream stand and
Oh, yeah, right.
trail, and over. I think it was approved conditionally, subject to a new plan with more detail.
Okay,
But I will report on that more if that's not a correct report.
all right. Anything else people want to bring up? Then I'd ask for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.